Welcome back everybody, Todd here. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. Today we're going to get started on this 2021 Harley Davidson Sport Glide build. If you saw my last video, you know that I just got back from a 4-day motorcycle trip. We did a lot of time in the saddle, and because of that trip, it's really kind of pushed me into making some changes on my bike. So first thing is first, we're going to change out that seat. I purchased the Saddelmen Explorer seat. I want to take you through some of the different math and show you the fitment on the bike, because when I was looking at YouTube channels and trying to find videos on this seat, more information on making a purchasing decision, I was having a hard time finding some technical information on this seat. So I'll show you the whole swap out and all that, but I'm also going to give you a bunch of the technical stuff that you may or may not want. But I certainly was looking for it, and I've got to believe there's some of you out there that are like me. So come on with me and let's jump into this seat change. So there you go. That's the Harley Davidson OEM seat for the 2021 Sport Glide. And I've got a butt buffer motorcycle seat pad on there. That seat pad does a good job, you know, for riding. As I've said, probably between an hour and a half, I'm very comfortable riding on that seat with the seat pad. But if you're going to go beyond that, it's going to start to get uncomfortable. You're going to want to have more lumbar support in the back. So that's what we're going for. So that's why we made the decision. That's why I made the decision to change that seat out and go with the Saddlemen. Whenever you're contemplating a change to your seat, there's a lot of things to consider. Number one, height. Is the new seat going to be lower? Is it going to be higher? Is it going to be pushing me forward? Is it going to pull me back? So how's it going to change the ergonomics? So before we make a change on this seat and pull this one off, let's take a really close look at the OEM seat, and then when we change the seat, we can do the same walk around and see exactly what changes it made on the seat. The first things first is fitment. This fits nice along the top, the front of the tank. Very nice fit. As you come through here, you follow the contour. It fits nice. It certainly, obviously it's your OEM seat, so you would expect it's going to have a nice clean fit to it. Again, up along the tank. So, it's obviously it's sitting on that fender. Now I've got the rack on there. Now that's another thing, I've got well over $300 into that rack, and I love that rack. So hopefully this rack is going to work with the new seat. The one thing that I know for sure is this pillion is smaller than what the pillion is on the new seat. So that's going to be a difference. The shape, the height, everything. All right, let's get a measurement and see where this seat sits in comparison to height off the floor. So you can see I've put the pad back on because I've been riding with the pad. Got a tape measure. Got a level. Now there's no weight on it, but I've got the bike sitting on a center stand. So let's get a measurement here and determine where we're realistically at. I am at 27 3/4 of an inch to the bottom of the level. 27 3/4 inches. Let's see what the new seat looks like. All right, we're going to change the seat out. First thing I'm going to do is take the rack off. Rack is off. I'll set that aside. Here we've just got, probably should put a towel on that rear fender. Now, I've previously taken the strap off of here, so just going to lift it up and pull it down. And there you go. Okay, so I've cleaned all the grime off of there. Well, here's a couple of things. See all this scuffing where the other seat, where the OEM seat made contact with the fender? And there's nothing you're going to do about that. That's there, right? And then on the, you can see down here and over here on the bottom of the gas tank, kind of the same thing, where that was rubbing. You've got some down here. So, you know, keep that in mind when you get a new seat. Here's the seat. Let's go ahead and carefully set it in place. Get that tongue under there. Now they supply you a rubber washer here. One side's glossy, so you're going to put that over top of your bolt there. And in it goes. There we go. Move that up just a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and take the crush washer that was on there before, along with my after part. Now, and we'll go ahead and snug that down good. All right. Let me go get my backrest. Stick it in there. There's a slot there because there's a bracket inside there. Find that slot and just like that, put that on there. Okay, 27 3/4. Let's do a walk around for fitment. Start up here by the tank. It's definitely not as snugged up to the tank up front as what the other one was. I can't really see any of those rub marks, so that's fine. As we come down along here, it appears to be narrower than what the other one was. And you get into here, remember those scuff marks? Here we go. Those things are showing because this cuts way back in. It kind of bends in. Now once I get my rack on there, assuming that the rack fits, maybe that'll mask that a little bit. Over here on this other side, you've got the same thing. You can see the rub marks there. This is pairs right here. It's inset a little bit more. The other seat came out wider. But there's the fitment on the bike. And I may be able to get those polished out if you take some. I wouldn't do it. I'll take it to a detailer and have him do it, but they can probably get that polished out. Okay, quick update. I got the rack on without any problem at all. It fits just fine. And I think that, you know, when it comes to throwing a bag on the back there, just like my other seat, it'll be just fine. That pillion sits up just a little bit higher, but I'm not too concerned with it because I think that it's going to be just fine. I mean, that other seat sat up just a little bit too, so this pillion is probably sitting about an inch higher than what the other one did. I'm happy with it. I think it's a good look. There's no question that the backrest is going to be a game changer. Okay, we're getting ready to take it out for the first test drive. Picture of it. Good look at it from outside here. Styling wise, it certainly looks very nice on the bike. I think it's a perfect fit for this bike, this motorcycle, I could tell you that it definitely is cut differently than the OEM. Here we have the Harley Davidson stock OEM seat that came off the Sport Glide. What I want to do is get some measurements on this seat, and then we want to compare that to the Saddelmen Explorer seat just to see size-wise what's the difference. So what I'm going to do is measure from seam to seam in a variety of different spots. Start right here where it breaks. Now this is where kind of the lumbar starts right here. And of course it's different. On the Saddlemen, it comes up at a much sharper angle. So my point being, with this seat, you can still scooch back a little bit, whereas I think with the Saddlemen, when you're back against this seam, you can't scooch back any further. When I go from the inside of the seam to the inside of the seam, I'm at 12 3/4 of an inch. Now if I go from the seam to the front of the seat, down the middle, again, front of the seam, I'm at 13.5 inches. Obviously we moved over to the Saddlemen. We're going to take our first measurement from the seam or the crack where the two join to the front of the bike. And that is 14 inches. We're going to go inside a seam to inside a seam, right along the gap here, right along where they meet. I'm going straight across. This bends in a little bit, but just like the other one, I'm going to go straight across, and I'm at 13 inches. Let's see what the taper is. If I go from the seam up front to here, across the front, I'm at 5.5 inches. Let's go, let's say 4 inches forward from the seam. Here we go. From the seam to the seam, and I'm at about 10.5 inches. On the other one, we came in, I think 4 inches to here, and then we went seam to seam, and I am at 11 inches. Come up 4, across 11 inches. If I look at my width up here in the front, pulling it straight, I'm at about 5.5 inches wide. So if we measure from the joint down here where the two meet all the way to the top, you're at, just pulling it straight, well, if you curve it back, yeah, you're at 17 inches. The backrest itself from seam to seam is 7.5 inches, and the width on the backrest is 10 3/4 inches. The width of the pillion up here, bottom to bottom, is, again, inside the seam to the inside of the seam is 8 inches. Not that it matters, but that tapers to 7 inches up here at the top. And the height is 3 inches. So from the inside of the seam to the seam on the back side, and I am at just under 10.5 inches, about 10 3/8. Then back here at the back end of the pillion, it's going to taper down to 4.5 inches back here. If I measure the pillion up here, and that's a hard one, I'm looking for the seam, I've got it. Just under 8 inches. At the widest part of the pillion, go 11 inches. You're at 11 inches back here at the widest part. And of course, it tapers. I'd have to come to the front. From there, to back there's 12 inches. So this is what we needed. We needed this seat to get on here, get positioned on the bike, and then determine where we need these handlebars to be to create the right ergonomics for long haul riding. And you can see, again, this is shoulder length apart here. Here's where my bars are, here out to there. It wouldn't hurt me to come up at least, probably 4 inches. 3 or 4 inches, I think, coming up. Yeah, I need to grip a bar right here. So I need to come up and back. Now, depending on the style of the bar that you choose, you can roll them back. So it's a combination of riser. This has a 4-inch riser on it already. So to get the height that I need, I probably need an 8-inch riser. I need them to come back to me. The 8-inch riser will bring them back a little bit, but then I'll need a style of bar that I can roll back to catch the rest of the bend, or to pull it back to me. So that's where I'm at. Here's my assessment on the seat so far. I've got 5 rides in for a little over 4 hours. Number one, right out of the box, it's going to be more comfortable than the OEM seat. As you ride it, you're going to feel that it's breaking in. So it's going to get even more comfortable as you put miles on it, as you put time in the seat. It initially felt, and still feels, smaller than what I remember the OEM seat feeling. But when you go to the math, it's not. It's just designed differently, so it hits your leg and your butt a little bit differently. That's not a bad thing. It's just different. And like anything else, change takes a little time to get used to. Height-wise, I don't see where it's really changed the height of the seat from where it was with my OEM seat and that pad. So any change there would be negligible. The reason I'm trying to go into as much detail on seat fitment and all that as possible is because when I was looking to buy this seat, I couldn't find anybody giving me measurements. How does this measure compared to the OEM seat? How am I going to sit this seat differently? How's it going to fit the bike? How's it going to fit me differently? So I'm hoping that some of you will appreciate the content and the detail on fitment of the seat. I've watched a lot of review videos on YouTube where people are just gushing about products. I just want to give you the truth. Managing expectations is pretty important. My expectation, I think, for this seat was unrealistic. I envisioned that I was going to get a more plush, wider, super comfortable touring seat, and I don't feel like that's what I got. I got a more comfortable seat. I certainly got a great lumbar support with the backrest. Don't get me wrong, it's a better seat by far, but is it what I was expecting? I don't know. The jury's still out on that. I've got to do some long rides to really tell you how I feel about this seat as my answer to touring. The back, done. That's the answer to touring. How big the seat is, how wide it is, and how I set it, I don't know. I'm just being honest with you. But here's the thing, it's a great seat. It's definitely a huge improvement over the OEM seat, and we'll just keep riding it, and I'll keep talking about it as I start to settle in and how I really feel long-term about the seat. So there you have it. Well, that's going to do it for this video, you guys. As always, I appreciate you tagging along. Do me a favor and hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm going to continue to build on this bike, so tag along, and I'll see you on the next one.